Hello, everyone. This is Tracy Stuckrath, founder of the Eating at a Meeting podcast, which you're watching now. I'm a little bit late in the day as normal because normally I go live at 12, but I just spent an amazing day listening to the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. And I have to say, my friend Erin here I always do this wrong, to my right, left, whatever it is, the ending was just phenomenal. I mean, Erin, it was just these two kids, one was 17 and one was 21, and just left us awestruck.
They were so concise and poignant and speaking from the heart and speaking with authority. And it was incredibly inspiring. Seriously, they saved the best for last by far. It was really, it leaves you wanting to do more, and boy, wanting to see more from those two.
Exactly. So it started earlier today. I don't even know what time it officially started. But it was, I think I got a lot more out of the general sessions than the breakout sessions, because they were really short and it was panels of 4 or 5 people. But I mean, the whole message is that we want to end hunger by 2030.
Yeah.
And I loved that it is a non-bipartisan or bipartisan commitment to do that with non-government organizations as well as the governments to do this.
That's right.
What were your key takeaways from this morning?
Ooh, a lot. I wrote down a million things that kind of started striking me. One is that we've been making progress towards that end for the last several years. That's really nice to see. It's good to see that the numbers of particularly children that are in food insecure households was reduced by about, what they say, 25% in the last child's tax credit. So that was encouraging to see that those efforts are reaping rewards, and we're seeing the numbers on the back end. And that was something that really struck me. I also liked talking about those 5 pillars. I don't know if everyone that is watching this Facebook Live is familiar with the 5 pillars, but I thought that it was a well laid out strategy to combat not just hunger, but also improve health outcomes.
Yes.
That's something that we all benefit from. So whether you are hungry or food insecure, or you're in that space, we all do benefit from the improved health outcomes aspect of this. And 2 of those things were boosting physical activity and access to national parks, as well as investing in research on nutrition and how those things can combat chronic disease. And so those things stick out to me a little bit because they were not talked about quite as much, but I think they will benefit all 330 million of us here in this country.
Exactly. So Sarah Matheson from our friend Hungry Harry's, yay, asked us what the 5 pillars are, and I'm going to pull that up real quick.
Okay, yeah, great. I have just my brief notes if you want me to get it started and then you jump in.
Yep, go right ahead.
So the first pillar was to improve food access and affordability. That dealt with improving the economic situation of families so that they could afford access to different foods. The second one, and it also included expanding SNAP access, which is our food assistance program here, as well as advancing strategies to get to free, healthy school meals for nationwide for everyone.
Yes.
Tell me when you have it up. You're welcome to jump in anytime.
I've got it pulled up. So the second one was integrating nutrition and health and prioritizing the role of nutrition and food security in overall health, which includes disease prevention and management, and ensuring that our health care system addresses the nutrition needs of all people. And Sarah, I think this is really goes in line with what you do and what we did at the conference this week, which was the Food Allergy Summit. And Erin, you're involved in this too, and even how do you say her name that just ended the conference? Avani,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it has to include labeling of food allergens. I mean,
absolutely.
It's imperative that we do that, because you can't have a healthy household or a healthy kid without having that information there.
Transparency is key there, and in a number of ways. I know I made a note yesterday when I was looking at these 5 pillars and thinking that second pillar, having to do with nutrition and health for prevention of disease, should also include pushing the LEAP guidelines, that we should be incorporating that more. Studies are showing that they're just not they're not being recommended as much as they need to be. And
Right.
so we need the LEAP guidelines to be in place. And that's the learning early about peanuts. It was a program that taught us that early intervention, early introduction of allergens into an infant's diet, according to what your pediatrician will say, rather than delaying that introduction, is what will build up the immune system and help prevent the later onset of food allergies. So that it struck me that guidance kind of falls under that pillar, by the way. So for our food allergy community, that's something that really hit home.
I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly. And there's lots of new research coming out about food allergens. But with the increase of number of people with food allergies, it needs to be part of that. And I think there's so many opportunities for us, for the food allergy community, to get involved in that aspect of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
We need to be talking about more. The other thing that struck me, and I apologize that we haven't even moved on from pillar
No.
2, Sarah. We will get to
Okay.
all of those pillars, I promise. But they wanted to talk about food insecurity screenings at healthcare appointments, which I think is so important. A lot of doctors hadn't up until now been involved in screening for food insecurity. Now I know that the AAP, the Pediatric Society, they are screening for food allergy, for food insecurity rather. But it's something that we need to be doing. And the other thing that we need to be aware of in the same vein is the social determinants of health. We can't ignore this. There was an excellent presentation at the FAIR Summit this past weekend about the social determinants of health. Where you live, where you're born, could have an effect on health outcomes later on. And asthma is an easy go-to example of that, where, if you have a house and you live near a highway, there's a higher chance that you may have developed asthma, or your asthma may be aggravated by that air pollution. Wow. There's lots of other examples, and we could go on and talk a whole day about it. But I thought that was another area where that plays into food allergy as well, particularly actually in the asthma space. If you have asthma, you're at a higher risk for a worse reaction. So this is another area where I hope to see some development from the White House, which is exciting.
Exactly. Yeah. And it does play into, and the fact that quite a few people talked about how doctors are going to be doing those screenings and asking about where you come from. And even the gentleman who, I think it was, I forgot who it was, that Rocco Perla, who's asked his mom, he's like, what, as a raising somebody on low income, did your doctor even talk to you about food and where your food came from? And his mom's like, what does a doctor have to do with the food?
Right.
Right. I mean, and it is imperative that doctors are talking to us about our diets and our nutrition. And and actually something that was said earlier in the day, and I don't remember who said it, is that why is the Department of Education and the Department of Nutrition and Health and Science not working together? Right.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Why is one hand not helping the other and following up on the first one's guidelines, for example?
Exactly.
And we can jump into that in a minute too, because I think that's an interesting conversation, an interesting piece. The third pillar was empowering consumers. And Sarah, you nailed it. Labeling is so key. That was like the biggest part to me was like relevant to our community would be that labeling piece. We want transparency. We need to know what's in foods. It is what keeps us safe. In this case, food for us is medicine. It's a funny little cycle that we have where we have to avoid our food, but food is medicine also, and we need access to safe food. And the only way to know that you have access to safe food is to be able to read the labels and know what's in it.
Exactly.
So that is a huge issue for our community. And obviously we'll be adding Sesame to a list of required labels for this country in January, which is so exciting to me. However, there are so many people that suffer from non-top 9 food allergens that still are looking for labels. So we hear you and we see you, and we know that we need to do more in this country to get those labeled. And just know that advocates are working hard to continue that fight. We're also trying to get it labeled on other types of food. So once again, just know that there are advocates paying attention to these issues out there, and reach out if you guys want to be part of that kind of conversation.
Well, and in the last session too, I thought it was really important making that empowering all consumers to have a healthy access is that they've partnered with the National Restaurant Association and 35,000 restaurants that have committed to making healthier kids menus. Right. On restaurants, and the National Restaurant Association is going to back that with that. But that to me along comes with that labeling of the food, because we don't know what we don't know. And you can't look at something and tell what's hidden inside of it. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Especially when we're talking about foods that are made on site. That's
Right.
stuff that makes it becomes very challenging for all of us in the food allergy community.
Yep.
Um,
Number
Go.
4 is I love because I'm actually looking out at nature onto a lake and into the woods, but it's supporting physical activity for all. And that came along with, making sure that we're building neighborhoods and that have sidewalks and have access to walking to the forest or, trees and grass and
Parks.
getting that. So
Yeah.
there's parks. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
simple
Like
word.
outdoor,
Yeah.
just outdoor space. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
a high emphasis on outdoor space, which was really
Yeah.
great. And they were also going to look at CDC recommendations for that. And the
Right.
fifth pillar was enhancing nutrition and food security research. Again, like I can't underscore how important this is. We need
Yep.
updated guidelines, updated data. Data informs policy.
Yep.
We need it. Every time I go to Capitol Hill, I mean, just for some perspective, and I propose what is to me a very common sense idea, and often to the person I'm talking to, a very common sense idea. They always want data. They want the most
Yep.
recent survey info. They want any kind of statistics I can lean hard on. They want a study. They need data. So the fact that we're looking to get data now
Mhm.
is really encouraging, and it's a good sign. It allows us to then use those studies that they have to help inform some of the initiatives that we'd like to see passed for our community. So I think it's only going to serve to help us.
I 100% agree. And that just kind of goes back to this weekend as well with Dr. Ruchi Gupta and all of the research that she's doing and then what you and I talked to her about wanting to do as well. And I think this even goes into the meetings industry, the research that's put on by a variety of different organizations there. But Sesame, just case in point, you mentioned Sesame. Sesame is now being added because of the research that Dr. Gupta did, and she had the numbers there to show how many people actually have a sesame allergy and the prevalence of that and why it needs to be the 9th allergen that is now needing to be labeled.
It really put it through the goal line. I
Mhm.
mean, we had been working on this issue. I personally worked on this issue probably for the last 7 or 8 years. And it was that data is that
Mhm.
what got this through the goal line. So
Yep.
it really, really makes a difference.
Right. So Sarah just asked a question. Did they talk about the numbers with food allergy in the military?
They didn't.
No.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I wish they had, and I know that we don't have we don't have exact numbers. The numbers vary a lot with the military. I work with the DoD on some food allergy related issues, believe it or not. But the numbers vary based on things like how many applicants there are with food allergies, which they don't accept, and then how many people later develop it, and how many
Right.
military families have food allergies. So the numbers get a little bit muddy when we talk about the military. The rules are still pretty hard and fast about active duty members not having food allergies, which is it's a shame. They're missing out on
Yeah.
some really capable, inspiring people that want to go out and serve their country in this way. But they are aware of it, and I know for certain that they're looking to see any type of sustainable treatment that could help and help ease those numbers.
She just said Dr. Gupta has the numbers, but I
Love
want to throw out there Zach Brown because of his camp in Georgia and his love of that with his kitchen and his camp facilities and his work with the military families. I would love to see. I'm just going to reach out to him and say, can we do this? Because he's very committed to that.
That would be great.
And bringing military families to his camp in Georgia. But yeah, so Sarah, we definitely will pull Dr. Gupta into that, and maybe she can throw her numbers in there. That would be great.
Yeah, maybe we can have another discussion about that. It'd be an interesting piece of
Exactly.
information, I think.
Yeah.
There were some very interesting speakers as well. Someone that stuck out to me. There was like a million. I wrote down a million things. Cory Booker stuck out to me.
Yep.
Tom Vislak stuck out to me, but the one that stuck out to me the most from today, I'm so curious whether you agree, Tracy, was Mayor Eric Adams of New York City.
Totally. He was fantastic.
Oh my God. He
Yeah.
was so good. He had a really good handle on what food insecurity looked like in his city.
Mhm.
He has a history of it in his city because he has served the city longer than his mayorship right now. And I don't even know if that's the right word, but
Yep.
the word I'm using. And he had a really good concept about school, particularly school nutrition and what to do with school nutrition. And once again, he was talking about making the school meals healthier and better. And he mentioned, I'm trying to find my quote here.
I've got a couple of them from him as well.
There's so many good quotes from him.
Yes.
But one of them had to do with one hand not knowing what the other one was doing. And so he was the one that said, we come up with all these guidelines of what healthy nutrition should look like. And then that comes from the Department of Health. And then the Department of Education orders all these not so great prepackaged processed meals. And he felt that one hand wasn't listening to what the other one was doing. And why don't they start working together? So they've started working together now, and they're playing around with school menus and making them healthier and doing a meatless Monday, which I thought was great. And I think they did a, what was the Friday? They had a cute name for whatever Friday. It was something
like meatless
Friday
Mondays on Mondays, and then plant-powered Fridays. Yep.
Plant-powered. I was like, it had a cute name. Plant-powered Fridays, which I thought was a terrific concept. I thought it was such a great idea to incorporate that at a younger age where they can learn about what these things are like and not be intimidated by the meals as they are. And so I thought it was great. And I love the idea of marrying up what one hand of government and the other hand of government are doing so that they can have a more complete representative plan all around.
Right.
So I thought that was a terrific speech, and he was just a great speaker.
He really was.
I suggest you listen to him.
The first quote that I got from him that I loved, because he was diagnosed with diabetes, is the quote that it was never my DNA, it was my dinner.
Oh, that's a good quote.
And I mean, so it just showed the power of food. And the other one that I found from him too, based on what you were just saying with the school system, is that, quote, all food that is purchased with taxpayers' dollars should make sure that food is healthy.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that just reiterates what you just said about, the nutrition and the school system need to be working together to do that instead of in silos. And it just really, and he ended with, let's get some stuff done. And GSD. And I
like GSD. I think that should be our new mantra for everybody. Get stuff done.
Yeah. Get stuff
their
done.
New York mantra.
Yep.
As a New Yorker, I like that mantra. Just get stuff done.
Exactly.
He said, we don't have to think outside the box. We have to destroy the box. That was
I wrote that down too. Yep.
I thought that was great. The other one that stood out greatly was Jose Andres, who of course I love, who
couldn't write fast enough.
Yeah, he could not talk fast enough. Like, he had so much to say and kept letting everyone break to applaud him, which was so great because he had a lot going on. But he just had so many interesting points to make about food and how it's not a privilege. It's a national security priority. And it really is. And that includes those with food allergies, right? So it's not just those who are hungry or those who are food insecure or those food allergy families or are having a hard time affording getting safe access to food. It's a national priority for us all. It keeps us all safe. It keeps communities happier and at work. It makes learning easier. Learning breeds, better job opportunities in the future. I mean, it really plays into so many things in addition to the health piece. And I thought that was such a nice sentiment to have there. And he said, food is the fastest way to rebuild our humanity.
I wrote that one down too. And then I love this because to me, this is what meeting planners do it's an afterthought, but it's like, stop treating food as an afterthought, start harnessing it as its true potential.
Yes.
And because I said, it is the problem, what we're feeding ourselves, what we're feeding our kids, but it can also be the solution to what we're doing when we're looking at where the food is grown, how it's grown, what we're serving, when we're serving it. And that really, he was just so remarkable in all of what he was saying. And he wasn't reading off of a teleprompter either.
He was just speaking from the heart as well. And I think something that will resonate with both food allergy community as well as meeting planners, which was, he felt that he said, there's no wall high enough to keep a mother that was trying to feed her hungry child.
Yep.
There are only longer tables.
Yep.
There are only longer tables. So even though while it was a slightly politicized message, his point was simply barriers are not what's going to help here. It's about building longer tables. It's about inclusiveness ultimately. And I thought that was something that just, it's just such a lovely example. I know we've all heard that saying before, maybe we haven't, but I just think the whole concept of longer tables is exactly the one we all need to be living by. Those of us in the food allergy community know that very, very well. I suspect the catering side certainly does too. You guys, event planning and all of that, you guys understand the concept of longer tables is just so correct. And you're right, Sarah.
Yep.
You aptly put, access to food is a right, not a privilege. You're so correct. It is an absolute right in this country. And that's why they're trying to banish hunger by 2030. I mean, that's 8 years from now, guys.
Yeah, I know. It's not far away.
No, and one of the things they said, which I also thought was such a nice concept, and they reiterated again and again and again and again, which was, let's all honor our commitments to this cause. So everyone that was there presumably had a stake in the game in some way, and we all come from it at different angles. There's a place on the White House Conference website where you can see stories from different people, like little video stories. And you'll see that people come from this problem from not just all across the country and the extending territories, but also just from different angles. Some people have community gardens. Some people want to work at a food pantry. Some people are really into the physical exercise piece, and they are really committed to the 60 Minutes of Play campaigns. Some people have the National Park Service. I mean, there's really a wide variety of topics that are covered under this umbrella that we're talking about today. But the idea of everyone coming in, and if we all just honor our commitments in however big or small form they come in, we're moving ourselves along towards this goal. And I thought that was a great sentiment. I think there's lots of ways that I know I can speak for the food allergy community, what we're trying to do in order to move that along. I know that there aren't enough dedicatedly allergy-free food pantries out there. There are 60,000 food pantries across our country. There are 4 that cater exclusively to those with food allergies. We need more of those. And we have some good work on the ground. Emily Brown has established a great model, and we see it replaying in other ways. So like, congrats to all those 4 food pantries. You guys are doing incredible work, each one of you. And I'm watching the progress of each one of them. But we need more. And I know that we've tried to help people with access to medicine, healthcare, and obviously food through training and school initiatives. We are continually trying to expand the offerings of the WIC program. That's the Women, Infant, Children's Expansion Program. It's a related program to the SNAP food benefits program. So we're always trying to expand the offerings there so that there are some allergy-friendly offerings. It's an extremely difficult problem. Sarah is aptly pointing out, and she would know better than anybody, there's an extreme lack of food allergy friendly factories. I've heard that. And boy, I would love to have a whole conversation about that. I can't imagine how difficult it is to have your foods manufactured there. I mean, Hunger Harry is an amazing brand. It is so delicious, but to get that, not just to get everything ready, but to then find the factory, I can't imagine the trouble you must have had bringing that to market. So we do need help in those areas.
Right.
And in the event space, I'm sure that there's a lot of little things. I mean, what came to mind to me was, Tracy, you and I were together this weekend. You were saying, I would label the food this way or that way, like certain ways to clearly label food so people could, read the labels easily. That's such a simple way to do it. That's doing your part.
It is 100% doing your part, but it's also goes from it's creating a relationship with the front of the house and the back of the house. And one of the things that Jose said was that we need to make sure that the people in the food service industry and restaurants and hospitals and hotels and stuff actually value their jobs, and that we value what they do for us, because they're feeding us. They're the ones responsible for feeding us, whether it's the school kitchen, the cafeteria worker in our school systems, whether it's the line cook or even the dishwasher in the hotel or the restaurant. They're responsible for making us our food and making sure that we have clean environments, but we have to make sure that we respect that. And that does come down with labeling, and we need to not. To me, I see a big fight with the front of the house and the back of the house on whose responsibility that is. And
that's interesting.
I think from today, it shows that it reiterates that it's everybody's responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think I like your point about gratitude, though. I will say it makes a difference that just like this is a big initiative and we're all going to do our small part to move towards the end goal. In any event, in any school, in any environment, everyone's doing their small part to move towards their end goal, whatever it may be. And I believe very strongly in the power of gratitude and appreciation, even if it's just quiet appreciation, but ideally it's vocal appreciation for somebody. I think that goes a long way in making people empowering other people,
Right.
And making them value their job and themselves. And I think that all creates a good ecosystem for, for good, basically.
Yep.
The other things that I think, some of the things that we can do, all of us, for those in the food allergy community, or just listening, unrelated to both of our communities here,
Right.
donate food allergy friendly food to food banks.
Exactly.
Host a food allergy friendly food drive. It's pretty easy to do. You can be very specific about what you need or what you want. I would talk to a food bank in terms of seeing what they have, to see what they have or what they need. Think long shelf life. Don't think refrigerated items. But do a food allergy friendly food drive and donate it to a food bank towards, particularly at the holiday season, please. That's really, really hard, but it's kind of hard all year round.
Right.
Maybe even donating food after an event. I don't know if that's a possibility.
And I was just going to pipe in with that.
Great.
Have so many opportunities to do that. And the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act is being updated. It does protect you from making any donations after an event. You just have to make sure that the food is time and temperature controlled. But we do need to make sure that we follow the Food Donation Improvement Act of 2021, which is still in the works of getting finalized on what that means, but 100% donate. But on the note, what that you just said is that when we are donating it, we should be also labeling it for the allergens. It should not just be labeled for the people that are eating at the conference. Anything you give to someone else, you should be able to tell them what's in it. And Sarah, it reminds me of the cards that you send out with your food, that you've got little cards that you send that people who utilize your product can actually put it on the card on the table next to what the food is. And it is what she just said, is leading with empathy. We need to walk in the shoes of these people that we feed, and we can, that we need to feed, and make sure that we're feeding the communities around us.
I totally agree. The other big initiative that they mentioned, which is something we all can do as well, is buying sustainably and buying locally. It was to support the local agriculture, the local farmers, to reduce costs from shipping, to reduce the need to preserve something, and that makes it less healthy. So the idea of just buying locally is an easy thing that we can all do. We can all go to a farmer's market near us pretty much. I don't know how possible that is in the event space, but I know at least on a personal levels, that's something that we can do, is try to buy locally and support locally. And that really helps everyone across the board. And it helps with that first pillar, which was increasing economic viability, which increases access to food. Right. So that's another easy step. And that's also doing your part, which is, I just liked the idea that doing your part could be big and it could be small, but if we all take a step, it moves us there. It narrows the gap of what we need to accomplish.
Yep. And Secretary Vilsack said it at the very, very beginning. He's like, we encourage local gardens and, because we're supporting the local communities, but it was reiterated throughout the entire conference in the breakout sessions. And somebody said, and I have to find the quote, is like, we want to support communities. And even Jose said it. He's like, when you're looking at a disaster relief area where he's going to support, right? It is not the government coming in. It's not these big, huge corporations coming in. It's neighbors helping neighbors. That's right. It's local farmers helping their local communities and donating milk or donating whatever it is. It is that local relationship that you have with the farmer next door, or the mom who's growing garden, the community garden that you have in your neighborhood. I mean, that's what's going to help make this change.
Yeah. And then it's also good to remember, and for those of you who are listening, you may have heard this a million times, but I want you to embrace it in a new way, which is lived experience is expertise. Lived experience is expertise. You are an expert with your lived experience, and we need to all hear from you. So in other words, if you've had experience being on food assistance, well, then a lot of programs will want to hear from you. These programs do their best to target the needs of those they serve, but without the lived experience, they may be targeting it inefficiently. Same thing with those with food allergies, same things with those in the event space. You guys are the experts because you have lived experience. And that's who we need to hear from in order to help move some of these community efforts forward. Jose Andres mentioned it as well, really, with his, put the locals in charge on the ground.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They know what their community needs. They know that, serving this type of food will resonate with the community versus serving that type of food. It's both food, but it's not the same thing. You want it to be the most powerful experience it can be. So it brings out our humanity. It brings out the experience. It sets the table for, understanding and empathy and progress and all that stuff.
And it's culturally acceptable, right? It makes you, a community is the culture. And whether you want in Puerto Rico or in, the Ukraine, you don't want to just ship off just this random stuff, to feed people. Yes, it might help them, but it is also, you need to do what's culturally acceptable and respectful and dignified. And I think this past weekend, as well as today, it's about dignity in the food system as well. And making sure that we don't assume somebody needs this or somebody requires this other thing because we haven't asked.
That's right. I thought this was such an interesting conference, and I'm excited to see what else spins out of this. I just think that this was sort of the beginning of a lot of conversation that will spin out. I wish we could hear everyone's conversations right now at the same time, because I think everyone will have a different take on what they pulled out of this conference and this initiative. And I just have high hopes that we can achieve it. And again, they're looking to achieve this not just through government programming. This is to be achieved through corporations coming together with nonprofits, with private citizens, it is meant to be a community effort to support our community. And I think that's really, really, it's really an important way to take ownership on this issue and hopefully prevent it from happening again.
I agree. And I just lost my screen where you are. Too many windows open. I need to find you back. But I was reading the chats, and I don't know how much you read in the chats, but there were a lot of people just sharing their organizations and what they did and how they do it. And there was one then, and I found this is what I was looking for. Now I have to find you again. Is that this Google worked, the Food is Medicine map. It's the Teaching Kitchen Collaborative. And so it really shows you where there may be food deserts in and around the communities that you live. And again, I'm trying to find you because I have too many windows open to find that. I don't know where you are. Where are you, Erin? I see.
Well, the idea of food as medicine is such an important topic, and that map was meant to be followed. If I'm remembering correctly, the map is meant to map out all of the food sources in a neighborhood. They're doing this by collecting data online through apps like Yelp and Uber Eats and things like that. In addition to, the link's up if you're curious about it. In addition to grocery stores and others. And this is important in a lot of ways. Number one, it just helps you see what's available to the community. But number two, if stores start to close, and they sometimes do in neighborhoods, then the government will know when to step in and start promoting food assistance programs.
Right.
It allows them to change, maybe a local government could sort of change the parameters around loans in that neighborhood. So it's not just about the food, it's about the financial lending, it's about a whole bunch of things, but it allows you to pay attention to those things. This topic is a real interest to me. I've been talking for years with somebody here in DC about trying to come up with a food desert map and what's actually available in the local stores in these food deserts. I saw a piece a long time ago that explained the provenance of the dollar stores in rural areas.
Okay.
And stay with me for a second. The problem is, so they're great because they go into these areas and they offer all this food, and it's inexpensive. However, it's closing down local grocers because it's so inexpensive. And if you've ever been to a dollar store, they offer food, but it's not like a grocery store, right? It's not the same as a grocery store. So it's closing the local grocer who likely carries produce and fresh meat and other things. And in its place, it's offering frozen food and snack food and other kind of convenience store type items.
Right.
And so it's not providing the kind of offering that most people need for their nutrition or for their health, nor is it providing certainly the kinds of options that those with food allergies would need.
Right.
It's not providing gluten-free sections or, dairy-free alternatives or anything like that. And so there are food deserts all over the United States that have food markets in them, but not the kind of food markets that serve their community the way they need to.
Right.
So these maps could be interesting in that way as well.
100%. And there was something that you said in there. It reminded me of SNAP, and I wanted to make sure that everybody knows this. And I've shared this information with people in courses and stuff before, but the SNAP program, and I don't know how many of you know this, but you can actually, when you go to the farmer's market, you get $2 for every dollar of SNAP. So it's teaching you how you're getting healthy, direct from the farm food, and you're getting 2 for the price of 1, and that's a really important thing to make sure that you understand. I know when I was in Atlanta and we were teaching this and learning this, a lot of the challenge though is that a lot of people don't know how to cook that food. And nor do they have the facilities to do that. So we also have to work in those food desert areas. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a food desert area either. It's like, how do we help them cook that eggplant that's in season right now because they've never seen an eggplant before, right? How do we make sure that we do that? But I really want to make sure that anybody who's listening that does use SNAP, find your local farmers market, because you can do 2 for 1 there.
Yeah, your dollars go twice as far, and that's a really important piece of this. And if you have children that are under 6 and or you are pregnant, look into the Women, Infant, Children's Program, WIC, because that does support a number of different extra added benefits that are meant to help both maternal bodies as well as young children. And they'll support children typically till age 5, sometimes till age 6. I know that President Biden had mentioned, I think it was Biden who mentioned it, maybe it was Doug Emhoff. It was Doug who mentioned, like, I'm on a first name basis with,
Exactly. Yeah.
My best friend, Doug. He mentioned, felt very familiar. He mentioned extending that universally till age 6 or when the child goes to kindergarten. So that was another effort that they were hoping to extend. And it's a good extra program. They are not as flexible about food allergy substitutions.
And that's why Emily started her program.
Yep. And that's why SNAP and WIC are both state-run programs. So if you know of anyone that needs a SNAP program or a WIC program, that is something that you should look into through your state, not through a federal program overview. And the rules vary a little bit state to state. So it's worth asking about that if you live between states, for example, if you live like on the border, like we do in the DC area.
I really want, the Farm Bill is up for redesign, redesign or relaunching or get in next year in 2023. So I want to know how, I would be interesting to see how this is going to be incorporated into the Farm Bill as well. Debbie Stabenow, who is the chair of the Senate Ag Committee, and I think you were on that one as well. This Chairwoman Rosa DeLaura, chair of the Appropriations.
Most colorful woman on the panel today.
Yes, very much so.
Like a rainbow. She was like rainbow head to toe, including her hair. It was fabulous.
Purple hair. Yeah, it was awesome.
I kind of loved her.
And she's like, people are hungry and we need to make sure that we feed them. And I think that all comes into all of this. And she mentioned the Farm Bill and what, this is what we really need to make sure that we're doing. And it's just, we can do this. We can work together and do it and make sure that people are without hunger. Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there's, like I said, I think there are easy little ways that we can ensure that we look out for the next guy. And just be aware that this is a problem, not just, and it's not just low income families. We're not talking about low income families exclusively. Food insecurity is not something you can identify from the outside.
You can't look at somebody and see and note that they are.
Not by their personality, not by their person, and not by the house they live in, and not by the car they drive. I'm telling you, it is another invisible condition. It's not a health condition, but it is an invisible situation that people deal with that you cannot know and you cannot judge. And so it's an issue much more prevalent than you'd believe in this country. They say 1 in 10 is what they said, which is as prevalent as food allergies. So I'm just saying, if you know someone with a food allergy, you probably know someone who's food insecure as well.
Yeah. And Sarah just said we have put people on the moon, and
Yes.
we can do this. But I think one of the things, and I think it came out of this past weekend, but I think also in the research that we're going to do through this conference too, is that we can't just send a electronic survey saying check these boxes. You actually have to get into the communities and have the conversations with the individuals. And I say that all the time when I'm teaching people how to register, when people register and they have a dietary restriction. You don't understand it, pick up the telephone and call them, right? We can, in April, I had 3 different people during Passover that were kosher followers, right? And I had 3 different levels of kashrut following, right? And so I had to make those accommodations, but that required picking up the telephone and asking the questions. And I think that goes with this research in this coming out of this conference and doing this, is that we have to put our feet on the ground and go where we're trying to help, because we can't just make blanket change for the sake of making blanket change and think we're helping them without asking them what they need.
Again, the lived experience is what's going to guide the way here. The lived experience should help lead us towards a solution.
Right.
So I'm really hoping that the one thing that they did not mention that I'm kind of hoping they do later follow up with is some way for these groups to work together, some way for them to connect, some way, if one of us has a survey, maybe there are others in this conference attendee set that would be willing to help implement them. Things like that would be really, really helpful. And I suspect that anyone would be willing. It's a matter of just being able to connect. So it's one thing that I'm kind of hoping that comes out of this is that collaborative effort. If you know me, collaboration is a big deal. And I think it's the way we get things done.
Well, and I'm posting in the chat now the list of satellite events that were held before the conference and that are being held after the conference, so that you can see. The one I just posted was the satellite events, and most of them are happening afterwards. But I'm now the second link I'm putting in here is the ones that were held prior to, that actually gathered information from their constituents and their communities to pass on to make this strategy. About this. So reach out to those organizations and find out how you can get involved.
So I will tell you that I should have led with this, that the Food Allergy Collaborative did get together and we did submit a letter. It was quite a long and very detailed letter to the White House several weeks ago. We had been following the development of this meeting since June. So it's something that was on our radar for a long time, but we gave a very detailed account of the impact of food allergies on food insecurity, on access to health, even on physical activity when it comes to asthma. And we kind of hit a lot of the high notes of what they were looking at the time. So it should have been woven into their strategy, despite the fact that they didn't mention it. They didn't call it out very specifically. That doesn't bother me that they didn't. I mean, obviously we always like a good shout out, but it doesn't bother me that they didn't call us out. We submitted a very, very long, detailed letter collectively across the community. So I'll just say many entities, were part of this effort that really gave them a lot of data to think about when it came to food allergies and the cost and the access and the need for safe food as medicine. Right. So, we always describe, there is the standard of care is food avoidance, but food avoidance requires access to safe food. It requires that. So food is medicine in our case. And food is actually medicine when it comes to things like oral immunotherapy. So truly there needs to be access to safe food.
Yep. So Sarah just asked what the Food Allergy Collaborative is. And Sarah, it is a group of 9 different food allergy organizations, Allergy Strong, which is Erin's company, the Food Equality Initiative, FAIR, the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, Allergy and Asthma Network, FACT, which is the Food Allergy and Anaphylaxis Connection Team, Elijah Alavi Foundation, the Food Allergy Fund, and Kimberly Desiree, a patient representative. I just posted the link right above the chat. hopefully it came in there. I'll post it again for you because it doesn't look like it showed up in LinkedIn.
Yeah, we come together to move the needle forward for patients as a group, typically in advocacy, although we put together, and I am very pleased because this also fell in line with one of the initiatives I was tweeting about it. We put together over the course of 2.5 years, a patient-focused drug development meeting, a PFDD for the FDA. This was patients getting together with lived experience and letting the FDA know what the unmet needs were in our community and what obstacles and risks we were willing to tolerate in order to achieve a better lifestyle, a better quality of life, some protection. It's exactly what had been mentioned here, which is, letting lived experience lead the way. This is how we let lived experience lead the way, rather than have the FDA tell us what they think is a good idea, which they tried to do several times, not vilifying them. They do their best. And they were a good receptive partner in this way. But rather than having tell us what we're willing to tolerate, we tell them. In the past, there was a treatment that was almost on the chopping block. It was on the chopping block. It was almost rejected until patients came forward. So this is another way that patients came forward. And we've done several other things in between, but that was a big milestone that kind of plays into what we were talking about today.
Awesome. She's asking no brands involved. So at this point, no brands are involved.
No brands are involved.
Yep. There needs to be a review of how we make the food of our community needs. 100%. And that's that, looking at the different factories that are out there, how they're processed. I actually sat in the fantastic session over the weekend with Partake and on the different labeling of what it means, like made in a factory that also produces this, and what Sarah and Partake and Better Bites do to ensure that their food is free of the top 8, top 14 allergens to do that. And oh my gosh, I learned so much from what that means. And it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm jealous you got to sit on that session. I think I was speaking in, so I'm going to need the private tutoring session, Sarah.
Yes.
But I really wanted to go. I know just by, just on the vaguest way, that it takes so much for you guys to bring products to our community that are safe and reliable for us. And I know that we're always grateful in that regard. I would love to learn more about that as well. Those precautionary labels, I know, are really difficult. I know you all take them very seriously. I always am concerned that other companies don't take them quite as seriously, that don't cater to people with food allergies. That said, once again, that's back to the transparency issue where clearly brands like Hungry Harry's and Partake, they obviously, and others, I don't want to, there are many out there, but they value that relationship with their consumers and therefore want to disclose as much as possible to keep them safe. That's, again, back to that labeling issue. I do believe that is a really big one that we're still working on perfecting for the food allergy community. And we're not the only community when I say food allergies, but there are lots of people with dietary restrictions, celiac disease being one of them.
Religious-based
labels, diabetes.
Yeah. Diabetes, individuals who are kosher, they want to know how their food is being prepared.
High blood pressure. I mean, we can name 1,000 conditions that require accurate and reliable labeling. And so I like the idea of putting some of the labels on the front of package. I think that's a great idea. I think it's going to be tough to say that one person's condition belongs on the front where another person's doesn't.
Right.
That's the only thing that kind of struck me a little, but beyond that, I understand where it comes from. And it's certainly, again, I'm thinking steps in the right direction. So it may not be perfect, but it may be that middle ground that we need to hit in order to keep moving the needle forward in transparency.
Well, and it reminds me of I jumped into one of the other sessions this afternoon, and it was about accessibility. And in that session was a little person. And the quote that I got from them was that just because you've designed this food around one community doesn't mean it meets another community's needs. And that person was talking about, the height of tables or being able to access it by reaching for it. Yep, we've labeled it, but can somebody actually get to it? And this is one of the things that I say in my sessions all the time. It's not just about what you're serving on the plate. That is super important, what you're serving on the plate, but we
Mhm.
also have to have access to that plate. And can
Yes.
someone reach it? Can someone get maneuvered to it with their wheelchair, scooter, whatever it is, if
Yeah.
they're visually impaired? What does that come to play into that? And so we have to look at how that is done as well.
Yeah, really good point.
Yeah.
Really good point. And
There-
again, we always feel for you as because food allergy is an invisible disability.
It is
So while it's
amazing.
not a physical one and we can physically access, I always feel for people who have limitations when it comes to
Yeah,
any regular activity that we all take for granted.
exactly. All right, ma'am. We need to go feed ourselves in general.
Whew, yeah, I think
Yes.
I might be glued to this chair. We've been in this meeting literally all day since the morning. But
Exactly.
this was exciting, you guys, and I hope that we were able to impart even a little bit of the energy that we left that meeting with. I don't know about you, Tracy, but I know that I feel sort of reinvigorated about the efforts that Allergy Strong does.
Mhm.
And I actually feel like I sort of have new insight into maybe other ways that we can
Oop.
improve what we're doing. And so I'm really excited about the option to do that and the ability to do that, and look forward to the opportunities ahead. And again, if anyone's interested, by all means, reach out to me, reach out to Tracy. There's lots to be done.
Sarah, you're welcome. It was an amazing day. And Erin, I'm glad that you and Emily and I'm going to put Emily's information up here real quick.
Oh yeah,
Emily
please do.
Brown.
Emily Brown from
Um,
Free Quality
Oop, that's
Initiative.
you. Emily, here we go, at Free From Market.
Free From Market,
Yep. And so she's got that market that is it's free from, and it's a nationwide market that she's building. So, but I'm glad that the three of us went, and then we can collaborate on what we learned in the different sessions that we attended. I'm tweeting her, I'm texting her, and she's like, "I'm already in this session, Tracy." I'm like,
we all went to different sessions for the most part, and we're able
Yeah.
to see different things. So for us to come together here is so important. And I think to take this forward will be really important as well, and be stewards of this information to try to, bring others along for the ride. And again, anyone that has any interest in helping out in any of these ways, we have loads of ideas of what can make an impact on a small scale, and we're open to any ideas that anyone else has for, again, moving the needle forward. As the last speaker said, we do not have a quantity problem in this country in terms of food. We have a quality problem. And so let's keep that in mind. And I'm sure that there are solutions that are going to come to us over the next few years. We've got 8 years to make it happen, people. Let's do this.
Yep, 8 years. We can do it. We can do it. And let's get some stuff done. Or
yeah, let's GSD.
Yeah, GSD,
everybody.
Yeah, GSD. So, Erin, thank you so much for jumping on with me today.
Always a pleasure. This was so much fun.
I'm glad we did it at the end and not trying to do it at lunchtime.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
schedule.
So everybody, thank you for tuning in. Sarah Matheson, I appreciate you jumping in here and listening.
Thank you.
Piping in. We appreciate you. Thank you for what you do. Everyone, I will be back here on all the platforms next week at 12 o'clock. I actually think I'm recreating one of the sessions from the FAIR conference this past week with 4 leaders who were talking about disabilities in the workplace as it relates to food and beverage.
Oh, cool.
So JJ and now I'm going to forget everybody's name, but yes, they've agreed to recreate it for me. So that'll be a good conversation. And because next month, well, and starting on Saturday, it is the Disability Employment Awareness Month, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So everybody, Erin, love you.
Love you. Bye, guys.
Everybody stay safe and eat well. Bye-bye.
Bye.